You want smart RGB lighting that doesn't cost a fortune and doesn't force you to buy a hub. That's the promise of Govee, affordable Wi-Fi lights you control straight from your phone. But here's what most reviews won't tell you. Wi-Fi-only smart lights come with trade-offs that can make or break your setup, depending on what you're actually trying to do. I'm Chen, and I've installed Govee products in over 80 homes. Some work brilliantly. Others create headaches you won't see coming until you're knee-deep in troubleshooting. Let's talk about what actually works and where the cracks start to show. You're listening to the Smart Home Setup Podcast. Quick heads up. All the research, testing, and writing you're about to hear is 100% human. I've personally installed these products, dealt with their quirks, and written every word of this script. The voice delivering it, though, that's AI generated. Just wanted to be upfront about that from the start. If you've been listening for a while, thanks for being here. Your time matters, and I don't take it for granted. And if you're new to the show, I'm genuinely glad you found us. We release new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, breaking down smart home tech with honest, hands-on perspective, instead of just regurgitating spec sheets. All right, let's get into it. Every Govee light uses Wi-Fi as its protocol, specifically 2.4 gigahertz only. That means you're connecting them directly to your router and controlling everything through the Govee Home app. No hub to buy, no extra hardware to mess with. It's simple on the surface, but that simplicity comes with limitations we'll dig into as we go through each product. Let's start with the Govee InVisual TV Backlight T2 with camera. Check the link below to see the current price. This one uses a small camera that you mount above your TV. The camera samples the colors on your screen in real time and projects them onto the wall behind your display. It's an immersive effect that extends what you're watching beyond the edges of the screen. This made the list because it's Govee's most sophisticated screen mirroring solution. The color accuracy is significantly better than the original T1 model. The camera-based approach works with any content source you throw at it. Streaming boxes, gaming consoles, cable boxes, whatever. It's reading the actual display output, not intercepting HDMI signals. In my experience, that eliminates the compatibility nightmares I've seen with HDMI sync boxes that break handshake protocols or choke on 4K at 120 Hz pass-through. Now, the protocol details. It's Wi-Fi only, 2.4 gigahertz. No hub needed, it connects straight to your router. You can control it through Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, or the Govee Home app. HomeKit support? Not happening. That's a permanent limitation because of how Govee's Wi-Fi implementation works. The T2 doesn't support Matter, Thread, or Zigbee either. It's purely a Wi-Fi device. You'll need a solid 2.4 gigahertz signal at your TV location. If you're running a mesh system, make sure the 2.4 gigahertz band isn't being aggressively pushed to 5 gigahertz, because that causes intermittent disconnections. Installation-wise, here's what you need to think about. The T2 supports TVs from 55 to 65 inches. Measure your actual screen dimensions, not just the advertised diagonal. For power, you'll need a USB port on your TV that actually provides enough juice, or a separate 5-volt 2-amp USB adapter. The camera needs an unobstructed view of your entire screen with roughly 8 to 12 inches of clearance. Check your Wi-Fi signal strength at the TV location before you install anything. You need at least -70 dBm for reliable performance. The kit includes 11.8 feet of LED strip, which may leave gaps on TVs larger than 65 inches. Let's talk about how this thing actually performs. The color matching happens with about 50 to 80 milliseconds of latency between what's on screen and what the LEDs display. That's fast enough for movies and TV, but you'll notice it during fast-paced gaming with rapid scene changes. For automation, you can set it up so that when your TV turns on, the backlight enables with video sync mode. When the TV's off, switch to an ambient scene or turn off completely.
The problem is the T2 doesn't have native power sensing. You'll need to create this automation through Alexa routines or Google Home scripts. In my experience, the most reliable approach is just creating a movie time routine that triggers both your TV and the backlight at the same time, rather than trying to detect TV state changes automatically. Here are the real-world drawbacks you need to know about. The camera calibration process is frustratingly sensitive to ambient light. If you have windows behind your seating position or bright overhead lights, the camera struggles to accurately sample screen colors. You'll get washed out or inaccurate LED responses. You'll need to recalibrate whenever your room lighting conditions change significantly. The adhesive backing loses strength over time, especially on textured walls. I've seen multiple installations where sections of the strip start peeling after 6 to 8 months. You'll end up using 3M command strips as reinforcement. Moving on to the Govee RGB IC LED strips, check the link below to see the current price. These are segmented RGB strips that can display multiple colors simultaneously along their length. Standard RGB strips only show one color at a time across the entire strip. The RGB IC technology creates dynamic color gradients and flowing effects that look dramatically better. These work well for accent lighting behind furniture, under cabinets, or along staircases, where you want visual interest beyond static colors. Protocol-wise, it's Wi-Fi only on 2.4 gigahertz, no hub required. You can control them through Alexa or Google Assistant via the Govee Home app. There's no direct smart home protocol integration. You can't control these via Zigbee, Z-Wave, or Matter systems. Everything runs through the Govee Home app, with voice commands routed through Alexa or Google Assistant. If you're building a comprehensive smart lighting system that uses protocols like Zigbee or Matter, understand that these Govee strips will operate as a separate, isolated system that can't participate in protocol-level automations. For installation and power, you've got length options: 16.4 feet, 32.8 feet, or 65.6 feet. The 16.4-foot version uses a 12-volt 3-amp adapter that's included. The 32.8-foot version needs 12 volts at 5 amps, also included. The 65.6-foot version requires dual power injection points, and they include the hardware for that. The adhesive 3M backing works reliably on smooth surfaces, but fails on textured walls or rough wood. For permanent installations, I recommend using aluminum channel tracks. They improve heat dissipation and create cleaner-looking installations with diffused light output.
Response time from command to light change is about 300 to 800 milliseconds, depending on network conditions. That's noticeably slower than Zigbee-based systems, which typically respond in 100 to 200 milliseconds. This makes Wi-Fi strips less ideal for motion-triggered automations where instant response matters. Here's an example of what you might set up. If the time is 7 p.m. and sunset is detected, activate an evening glow scene with a warm gradient at 60% brightness. Or if a motion sensor triggers in the hallway, activate the strip at white 100% brightness. Wait 5 minutes. If there's no motion detected, fade to off over 30 seconds. The challenge? Govee strips don't natively integrate with most motion sensors. You'll need to create these automations through Alexa routines or Google Home scripts, which adds another 1 to 2 seconds of latency as the command routes through cloud servers. For time-critical automations, you're better off with protocol-native solutions. Let's be honest about the drawbacks. The app's music mode that supposedly syncs lights to audio is mediocre at best. It uses your phone's microphone to detect sound, which means it only works when you're actively running the app and your phone is near the audio source. It doesn't integrate with Spotify or other music services, and the beat detection is imprecise. The maximum brightness is also lower than competitor strips from Philips Hue or Lifix. If you're lighting a task area, like under-cabinet kitchen lighting, these won't provide adequate illumination. They're strictly accent lighting. Now let's talk about the Govee Outdoor String Lights Pro. Check the link below to see the current price.
These are permanent outdoor LED string lights designed for year-round installation on roof lines, fence lines, or patio structures. They made the list because they solve the problem of holiday light installation and removal every year. Once installed, you just change the color scheme and effects through the app. Red and green for Christmas, orange for Halloween, patriotic colors for July 4th, or warm white for everyday ambiance. The weatherproofing, IP67 rated, which means protected against immersion up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. Operating temperature ranges -4 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. They're UV resistant, yes, but the colors fade after 18 to 24 months of direct sun exposure. The IP67 rating means the LED bulbs themselves are waterproof, but the controller box is only IP65, protected against water jets, not immersion. You'll need to mount the controller under an eave or in a weatherproof junction box. Don't leave it exposed to direct rain.
Installation checklist. First, test your 2.4 gigahertz signal strength at the installation location before you mount anything. Outdoor Wi-Fi performance is consistently worse than indoor. You need an outdoor-rated GFCI outlet within 6 feet of the controller. The kit includes clips for gutters and shingles, but you'll need to purchase fence mounting brackets separately. String lengths are available in 32.8 feet, 65.6 feet, and 98.4 feet. Measure your roof line accurately. The controller must be mounted within 3 feet of the power source and have clear line of sight to your house for Wi-Fi penetration. This is where Govee's Wi-Fi-only approach shows its limitations. In my experience installing these on homes across the Pacific Northwest, roughly 30% of installations require a Wi-Fi range extender to maintain reliable connectivity. The combination of distance from the router, exterior wall penetration, and metal gutters or siding creates connectivity challenges. Here's what happens when Wi-Fi disconnects. The lights remain in their last state, color, brightness, effect. No remote control possible until connection restores. No scheduled scene changes will occur. Physical power cycling is the only reset option. Compare this to Zigbee or Z-Wave systems, which create mesh networks where each device extends range. That's one of the reasons protocol choice matters for outdoor installations. For automation, you can set it up so that at sunset minus 15 minutes, the string lights power on and load a warm white glow scene at 70% brightness. At 11 p.m., dim to 20% over 5 minutes and switch to a soft amber scene. At 1 a.m., power off. These time-based automations work reliably through the Govee Home app's built-in scheduler. The problem emerges when you want conditional logic based on weather or other sensors. Govee's ecosystem doesn't support that natively, and you'll hit limitations trying to integrate with platforms like Home Assistant. Specific problems you'll encounter. The mounting clips that attach to shingles are designed for 3-tab asphalt shingles only. If you have architectural shingles, the thicker, dimensional type, the clips don't grip securely, and you'll need to use adhesive-backed cable ties instead. The lights look fantastic at night, but appear as obvious white plastic cord during daylight. This isn't technically a functional flaw, but it's an aesthetic consideration. Permanent installation means you're looking at that white cord 24/7, and it doesn't blend into most architectural styles the way traditional C9 bulb sockets do. The USB power draw occasionally exceeds what TV USB ports provide, especially when running at high brightness. If the strip is flickering or displaying incorrect colors, it's usually insufficient power. You'll need to use a separate USB wall adapter.
Let's move to the Govee Smart Table Lamp with RGB IC WW. Check the link below to see the current price. This is a desk lamp with full-spectrum RGB IC WW LEDs that provide both accent color lighting and functional task lighting with adjustable white color temperature. It made the list because it's one of the few smart lamps that successfully bridges decorative RGB lighting and functional work lighting in a single fixture. The RGB IC WW designation means it has RGB for colors plus independent cool white and warm white LEDs for proper task lighting at various color temperatures, from 2700 Kelvin to 6500 Kelvin. Maximum brightness is 1800 lumens in warm white mode.
Color temperature range spans from 2700 Kelvin warm white to 6500 Kelvin cool daylight white. RGB color accuracy is good for ambient lighting, but not suitable for color-critical work. Dimming range is 1 to 100% with relatively smooth transitions, though you'll notice stepping below 10%. Protocol-wise, it's Wi-Fi only on 2.4 gigahertz. Control options include the Govee Home app, physical touch controls on the base, and voice through Alexa or Google. No Matter or HomeKit support. The physical controls are a significant advantage over strip lights. You can adjust brightness and toggle between preset scenes without opening the app. In my experience, this makes the lamp more practical for daily use compared to purely app-controlled Govee products. For automation, you might set it up so that when your computer power state turns on, the lamp sets to cool white at 5500 Kelvin, 100% brightness, and positions the directional head to task lighting angle. At 9 p.m., switch to warm white at 2700 Kelvin, 40% brightness. The challenge is detecting computer power state, since Govee doesn't integrate with most smart plugs at the automation level. You'll need to create proxy automations through Alexa routines that trigger based on time or manual voice commands rather than actual conditional logic. Real-world performance issues. The adjustable lamp head has limited positioning range, about 90 degrees of vertical tilt and 180 degrees of horizontal rotation. This is fine for direct desk lighting, but insufficient if you want to bounce light off a wall for ambient lighting while also having RGB glow effects. The RGB modes sacrifice significant brightness. When displaying colors, maximum output drops to around 600 to 800 lumens, which isn't enough for task lighting. You'll use this lamp in one of two modes, functional white task lighting or decorative RGB lighting, but not both simultaneously.
Now let's talk about the Govee Glide Hexa Pro light panels. Check the link below to see the current price. These are modular hexagonal light panels that mount on walls in custom geometric patterns and display synchronized RGB lighting effects. They made the list because they're Govee's answer to nanoleaf panels, offering similar aesthetic appeal at roughly 40% lower cost. The Hexa Pro model includes 10 panels with significantly improved brightness over the original Glide Hexa. Mounting method uses 3M adhesive backing that's included, or screw mounts with hardware included. Panel dimensions are 9.8 inches across from corner to corner. Maximum configuration is 10 panels included, expandable to 25 panels with additional purchases. Power requirements are 12 volts at 3 amps from a single injection point that powers all panels. The panels connect via short linking cables that attach to contact points on each panel's edges. This physical connection requirement means your layout options are constrained. You can't create gaps or floating configurations, and you need to plan power cable routing carefully. Protocol is Wi-Fi only on 2.4 gigahertz, no hub required. Smart home compatibility includes Alexa and Google Assistant. No Thread, Zigbee, Z-Wave, or Matter support. The panels function as a single device from a smart home perspective. You can't control individual panels independently through voice commands or automations. All panels display the same synchronized effect, pattern, or color gradient. Command-to-display latency is 500 to 1200 milliseconds, which is noticeably slower than hub-based systems. This makes the panels better suited for time-based or manual trigger automations, rather than reactive automations tied to motion sensors or other rapid response triggers. For automation examples, at 8 a.m., activate an energizing sunrise scene and gradually increase brightness from 10 to 80% over 10 minutes. When a gaming mode routine is triggered by voice or app, activate a purple lightning effect at 100% brightness. At 11 p.m., dim to 20% over 5 minutes and switch to an ocean wave effect with slow, calming blues, then power off at midnight. These work well through the Govee Home app's scheduling features, but integration with other smart home sensors or devices requires routing through Alexa routines, which adds latency and reliability concerns. Honest drawbacks? The adhesive mounting is not reliably removable without wall damage. Govee claims the 3M strips are removable, but in my experience, they either fail to hold the panels securely, especially on textured walls, or they bond so strongly that removing them tears paint and drywall paper. If you're renting or plan to reconfigure your layout, use the screw mounts instead.
The panels are bright enough for accent lighting, but not room illumination. Maximum output is around 100 lumens per panel, so a 10-panel configuration produces roughly 1,000 lumens total. That's adequate for decorative backlighting, but insufficient as primary lighting for a room. The music sync feature remains disappointing. Like other Govee products, it uses your phone's microphone and requires the app to be open, making it impractical for actual parties or extended music listening. Moving on to the Govee Smart Light Bulbs A19 Color. Check the link below to see the current price. These are standard base color-changing bulbs that fit any E26 socket, offering RGB plus white color temperature adjustment. They made the list because they represent the simplest entry point into smart lighting. Screw them into existing fixtures and control them through the Govee Home app. No hub required, no complicated installation, no compatibility concerns with fixtures. Technical specs: 850 lumens in white mode. Color temperature range from 2700 Kelvin to 6500 Kelvin. Wattage is 8 watts, equivalent to a 60-watt incandescent. Dimming from 1 to 100% via app control. Expected lifespan is 25,000 hours based on Govee's claims. Protocol is Wi-Fi only on 2.4 gigahertz. No hub required. Each bulb connects directly to your router. Ecosystem compatibility includes Alexa and Google Assistant. No HomeKit, Matter, Thread, Zigbee, or Z-Wave support. Each bulb is an independent Wi-Fi device, which creates network congestion concerns if you're deploying dozens of bulbs. Most consumer routers handle 20 to 30 simultaneous Wi-Fi devices comfortably, but performance degrades beyond that. If you're planning whole home smart lighting, understanding protocol trade-offs becomes important. Zigbee and Thread use mesh protocols that don't burden your router. Govee's app allows you to create groups of bulbs that respond to commands simultaneously. However, synchronization isn't perfect. There's typically 200 to 500 milliseconds of variation in response time between bulbs, which is noticeable when you're turning on multiple bulbs or changing colors simultaneously. For grouping, you might create a living room group with bulb 1 in a floor lamp, bulb 2 in a table lamp, and bulb 3 in a ceiling fixture. When a movie time routine is activated, set the living room group to warm white at 2700 Kelvin, 15% brightness with a fade over 3 seconds. This works adequately for general room control, but lacks the tight synchronization you'd get from a hub-based system like Philips Hue, where bulbs communicate through a dedicated Zigbee coordinator with sub-100 millisecond command distribution. Govee's Home app includes basic scheduling and scene automation. For a time-based schedule, at sunset, power on and set to warm white at 2700 Kelvin, 70% brightness. At 11 p.m., dim to 20%. At 1 a.m., power off.
More complex conditional automations require Alexa routines or Google Home scripts. For an Alexa routine, when you say "good night," turn off Govee bulbs in the living room, dim Govee bulbs in the bedroom to 10% warm white, and set a sleep timer for 15 minutes, then power off. Specific limitations. The bulbs have no local control capability. If your Wi-Fi or internet connection fails, you can't control them via app or voice. The physical light switch remains the only fallback, but toggling power resets the bulbs to full brightness white, ignoring any previous scene settings. This contrasts sharply with hub-based systems like Philips Hue, where the Zigbee connection between bulbs and hub continues functioning even during internet outages. The color rendering in RGB mode is noticeably inferior to dedicated lighting brands. Govee uses standard RGB LEDs without additional color mixing diodes, resulting in poor rendering of subtle colors, especially pastels, purples, and accurate whites. For accent lighting, this is fine. For color-critical applications like art display, photography, or video calls, it's inadequate. Let's talk about the Govee TV LED backlights with smart app control. Check the link below to see the current price.
These are basic LED strips designed specifically for TV mounting, offering RGB color control without the camera-based screen mirroring of the higher-end T2 model. They fill the budget TV backlighting niche. You get ambient glow behind your TV with app control and voice integration at a significantly lower price than the N-Visual camera system. The trade-off is manual color control instead of automatic screen matching. Installation requirements. Compatible with 46 to 60-inch TVs. The kit includes 9.2 feet of LED strip. It's USB-powered at 5 volts, 2 amps. You can use your TV's USB port if it provides sufficient amperage. Mounting method is adhesive backing applied to the TV's rear panel. The controller is a small inline box that must be accessible for future pairing or resets. Protocol is Wi-Fi on 2.4 gigahertz, no hub required. Voice control through Alexa or Google Assistant. App control via Govee Home app with 16 million color options and preset scenes. Like all Govee products, these are isolated from other smart home protocols. You can't trigger these lights based on inputs from Zigbee motion sensors or Z-Wave door contacts without routing commands through cloud-based automation services like IFTTT or Alexa routines. For automation examples, when a movie mode Alexa routine is triggered, set the TV backlight to dim blue at RGB 0, 50, 150, 20% brightness, turn off overhead lights, and turn on the soundbar if it's smart enabled. At 11 p.m., dim the TV backlight to 10% and shift color to warm amber.
The most practical automation approach I've seen is creating scene-based routines, movie night, gaming, casual TV, that you trigger manually via voice or app, rather than attempting automatic detection of TV state or content type. Real-world performance, response latency from command to color change is 400 to 700 milliseconds, which is fast enough that you won't notice delays during manual control, but introduces awkwardness if you're trying to sync with music or dynamic content. Brightness considerations: these strips produce adequate ambient glow for bias lighting, which reduces eye strain in dark rooms, but insufficient output for accent lighting that extends beyond the TV's immediate perimeter. Maximum brightness is noticeably dimmer than the N-Visual T2 model. Honest limitations: the adhesive backing is marginal on textured plastic TV backs. Modern TVs often have ribbed or textured rear panels for thermal management, and the strip's adhesive doesn't conform well to these surfaces. I've seen installations fail within weeks as sections peel away. Reinforcing with cable ties or additional adhesive mounting clips is often necessary. There's no white color temperature adjustment. You get RGB color mixing only. When you select white in the app, you're getting equal RGB output, which produces a cool, slightly blue-tinted white, rather than the warm white most people prefer for TV viewing. This is a hardware limitation that can't be fixed via firmware updates. The USB power draw occasionally exceeds what TV USB ports provide, especially when running at high brightness. If the strip is flickering or displaying incorrect colors, it's usually insufficient power. You'll need to use a separate USB wall adapter. Now let's look at the Govee outdoor ground lights. Check the link below to see the current price. These are landscape spotlights with stakes for ground mounting, designed to uplight trees, architectural features, or garden elements with RGB color control. They made the list because they bring smart color control to landscape lighting without requiring low-voltage transformers or professional installation. Each light operates independently, with individual color control, allowing multicolor landscape scenes. Installation and weatherproofing: IP66 rated, protected against powerful water jets. Operating temperature from -4 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Mounting uses ground stakes that are included or wall mount brackets sold separately. Cable length is 16.4 feet from the controller to the first light, then 6.6 feet between lights. 3 lights are included per set. The IP66 rating makes these suitable for year-round outdoor use, but the controller box requires covered mounting, under an eave, in a weatherproof box, or inside a garage with cable pass-through. Direct rain exposure will damage the controller within a season.
Wi-Fi range challenges. This is where outdoor Wi-Fi products consistently struggle. In my installations, these ground lights are often positioned 50 to 100 feet from the nearest Wi-Fi access point, with exterior walls, landscaping, and sometimes terrain changes, creating signal obstacles. Signal strength requirements. Minimum -75 dBm, though you should expect occasional disconnections. Recommended is -65 dBm or stronger for reliable operation. Above -80 dBm, frequent disconnections make the lights unusable. Before purchasing, test your 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi signal strength at the planned installation location using a Wi-Fi analyzer app. If signal is weak, you'll need to add a weatherproof Wi-Fi extender or mesh node. Factor this additional cost into your decision. For comparison, Zigbee and Z-Wave outdoor devices create mesh networks where each device extends range, making them more reliable for perimeter installations. For automation and scene control, at sunset, power on the ground lights and load a scene called warm architectural uplighting. Light 1 on a tree uses warm amber at 80% brightness. Light 2 on the house front uses soft white at 60% brightness. Light 3 in the garden uses deep green at 40% brightness. During holiday periods, like October 1st to October 31st, override the default scene with Halloween orange, all lights at orange, 100% brightness, with a slow pulse effect. The Govee app handles scene programming well, allowing individual light control within groups. However, you can't create conditional logic based on weather, like if rain is detected, dim lights, without using third-party automation platforms. Practical drawbacks. The lights are bright enough for accent uplighting, but insufficient for security lighting. If your goal is illuminating walkways or entrances for safety, these won't provide adequate white light output. They're optimized for color display, not functional illumination. The ground stakes are shallow, approximately 6 inches, and work in soft soil but fail in clay-heavy or rocky soil. You'll often need to pre-drill pilot holes or use the optional wall mount brackets on fence posts or structure bases instead. Each set includes only 3 lights, which covers a small area. Lighting a typical front yard architectural scheme requires 2 or 3 sets, and each set needs its own controller and power outlet. This becomes logistically complex and visually messy. You'll have multiple controllers to hide and multiple power cables to route.
Let's talk about the Govee Wi-Fi LED strip light M1. Check the link below to see the current price. This is Govee's premium LED strip offering, with ultra-bright RGB IC segments and enhanced smart features compared to their standard strips. The M1 model offers significantly higher brightness, 1200 lumens for a 16.4-foot strip, compared to standard Govee strips at around 600 lumens. That makes it viable for task lighting applications, not just accent lighting. Technical specifications. 1200 lumens for a 16.4-foot strip in white mode. LED density is 60 LEDs per meter, which is higher than standard strips at 30 per meter. RGB IC segments. 15 independently controllable segments per 16.4-foot strip. Power requirements are 12 volts at 5 amps, adapter included. Maximum extension. You can connect up to 32.8 feet, which is 2 strips, from a single controller. Protocol and integration. Wi-Fi on 2.4 GHz. Smart home compatibility includes Alexa, Google Assistant, and Govee Home app. No support for HomeKit, Matter, Thread, Zigbee, or Z-Wave. The M1 uses the same Wi-Fi-only architecture as all Govee products, with the same limitations regarding latency, cloud dependence, and ecosystem isolation. The increased brightness makes the M1 suitable for under-cabinet kitchen lighting as functional task lighting with color options, stairway edge lighting for safety illumination plus accent colors, workshop or garage lighting for bright white work light with adjustable color temperature, and media room accent lighting that's bright enough to provide ambient room light, not just screen backlighting. For automation, here's a kitchen under-cabinet scenario. If motion is detected in the kitchen via a third-party sensor plus Alexa routine, activate the M1 strip and set to cool white at 5500 Kelvin, 90% brightness. Wait 10 minutes. If no motion is detected, dim to 30% over 2 minutes. Wait 5 additional minutes, then power off. For an evening accent scenario, at 7 p.m., set the M1 to RGB IC gradient mode with a color palette of purple to blue to teal at 50% brightness. Use a slow color flow effect with 30-second cycles. Specific performance issues. Despite the improved brightness, color accuracy in white modes remains problematic. The strip uses RGB color mixing to create white light rather than dedicated white LEDs like RGB IC strips. This results in a slightly green-tinted white that's noticeable in kitchen task lighting applications. The increased power consumption, 5 amps versus 3 amps for standard strips, generates more heat. If you're installing these in enclosed channels or tight spaces, ventilation becomes important. I've seen strips fail prematurely when installed in sealed aluminum channels without air gaps.
The higher LED density and brightness come at a significant price premium, roughly 60 to 80% more than standard Govee strips. For purely decorative accent lighting, that additional cost is hard to justify. The M1 makes sense when you need the extra brightness for functional applications. Now, the Govee Lyra floor lamp. Check the link below to see the current price. This is a corner floor lamp with triangular light panels that creates both ambient room lighting and dynamic RGB effects. It made the list because it solves a specific design problem, providing modern, architectural lighting that functions as both a primary light source and a decorative RGB element. The Lyra works well in minimalist interiors where you want a statement lighting piece that doesn't look overtly gamer or juvenile. Design and lighting specifications. Height is 58 inches from floor to top. Footprint is an 11 by 11 inch triangular base. Light output is 1600 lumens maximum in white mode. Color options include RGB plus adjustable white from 2700 Kelvin to 6500 Kelvin. There are 3 independently controllable triangular panels. Protocol and smart home control. Wi-Fi on 2.4 gigahertz. Control methods include Govee Home app, physical touch controls on the base, and voice through Alexa or Google. No support for Matter, Thread, HomeKit, Zigbee, or Z-Wave. The physical touch controls are particularly valuable for a floor lamp. You can adjust brightness and cycle through preset scenes without opening the app, making this more practical for daily use compared to strip lights or wall panels. For practical applications and automation, here's a living room ambient lighting scenario. At sunset, power on the Lyra lamp and set to warm white at 2700 Kelvin, 60% brightness. Activate corner glow mode with concentrated downward lighting. For reading mode automation, when you say reading time, set the Lyra to cool white at 4500 Kelvin, 100% brightness, and activate focus bright mode with all panels at maximum. For evening wind down, at 9 p.m., gradually dim from 60 to 20% over 30 minutes and shift color temperature from 4000 Kelvin to 2700 Kelvin. Switch to pulse breathing effect with a slow, calming rhythm. Real-world performance considerations. The 1600 lumen output is adequate for secondary or accent lighting, but insufficient as a room's sole light source, unless you're in a small space under 150 square feet. Most living rooms need 3000 to 4000 lumens for comfortable ambient lighting, meaning you'll use the Lyra as supplemental lighting alongside ceiling fixtures. The triangular design creates pronounced corner shadows that some people love. It's architectural, dramatic lighting, and others find distracting. This isn't a soft, diffused light source.
Honest drawbacks. The base is surprisingly lightweight and tippy. The lamp's 58-inch height combined with a relatively small base creates stability concerns if you have pets, children, or high foot traffic. I've seen these get knocked over more frequently than traditional floor lamps with heavier bases or wider footprints. The power cable exits from the base at a fixed position, making furniture placement somewhat awkward. Unlike lamps with rotating bases, you can't orient the cable exit toward the wall. You're stuck with whatever direction faces your outlet, and the cable is visible unless you use cord management solutions.
RGB effects look impressive in marketing photos, but can feel gimmicky in actual home environments. Unless your entire aesthetic is modern or tech-forward, the rainbow gradient and color pulse effects may clash with traditional or transitional interior design. So how did I make these picks? I evaluated Govee lights based on real-world installation experience across more than 80 residential projects rather than manufacturer spec sheets. Every product in this guide has been installed in actual homes, which means I've encountered their setup quirks, connectivity challenges, and long-term reliability patterns. Key evaluation criteria: Wi-Fi reliability at typical installation locations, behind TVs, in outdoor locations, mounted on walls. Actual brightness output versus marketing claims, measured with calibrated light meters. Adhesive mounting performance over 6 to 12 months on various surface types. Voice control responsiveness and error rates with Alexa and Google Assistant. App functionality and automation capabilities within Govee's ecosystem. Physical installation challenges like cable management, power requirements, and mounting hardware quality. All Govee products use Wi-Fi as their exclusive protocol, which creates inherent limitations compared to hub-based systems using Zigbee, Z-Wave, or Thread. These limitations, latency, cloud dependence, router congestion, limited conditional automation, appear consistently across the product line. Govee lights work well for straightforward lighting control, but struggle with complex smart home integration that requires tight protocol-level coordination with other devices. I've prioritized products that excel at their specific use case while being honest about applications where Govee's approach creates friction. The result is a mix of RGB strips, bulbs, specialty lights, and outdoor options that cover most residential lighting needs at accessible price points.
Let's cover some frequently asked questions. Do Govee lights work without Wi-Fi or internet connection? No, Govee lights require an active Wi-Fi and internet connection for app control, voice commands, and automations. If your internet fails, you lose all smart functionality except for physical switch control. The lights will remain in their last state until connectivity restores, but you cannot change colors, brightness, or scenes without cloud access. This differs from hub-based systems like Philips Hue, where Zigbee communication between the hub and bulbs continues functioning during internet outages, allowing local control through the app even when cloud services are unavailable. Can Govee lights integrate with Home Assistant or SmartThings? Govee lights have limited integration with Home Assistant through community-developed plugins and unofficial APIs, but functionality is inconsistent and frequently breaks with app updates. Samsung SmartThings integration is similarly unreliable and depends on cloud-to-cloud connections rather than direct protocol communication. For reliable integration with comprehensive smart home platforms, consider protocol-native options that support Zigbee, Z-Wave, or Matter, which provide standardized local control APIs that don't depend on manufacturer cloud services. Are Govee lights compatible with Apple HomeKit or Matter? No, Govee lights are not compatible with Apple HomeKit, and as of 2026, Govee has not adopted Matter protocol support for any of their lighting products. All Govee lights operate exclusively via Wi-Fi using proprietary communication protocols that require the Govee Home app for setup and the Govee Cloud service for remote access. If HomeKit compatibility is important for your ecosystem, you'll need to choose alternatives like Philips Hue, Lifix, or other Matter-compatible smart lights that support cross-platform control. How many Govee lights can connect to one Wi-Fi network? Most consumer routers comfortably handle 20 to 30 Govee devices before performance degrades, though this depends on your router's specifications and how many other devices are competing for bandwidth. Each Govee light or controller consumes one slot in your router's DHCP table and generates periodic keep-alive traffic. If you're planning whole home lighting with dozens of devices, Wi-Fi congestion becomes a significant concern. You'll experience increased latency, dropped connections, and reliability issues. This is why mesh protocols like Zigbee and Thread are preferred for large-scale smart lighting installations, as they don't burden your primary Wi-Fi network.
Final thoughts. Govee lights deliver impressive RGB effects and app-controlled convenience at budget-friendly prices, but they're best suited for straightforward, single-ecosystem implementations rather than complex, multi-protocol smart homes. The Wi-Fi-only architecture creates reliability and integration challenges that become more pronounced as your system grows beyond a few devices. If you're starting fresh with smart lighting and prioritize affordability over ecosystem flexibility, Govee products work well. Just understand you're committing to their closed ecosystem with limited expansion paths. For more complex automation needs or future-proofing your installation, exploring protocol-based alternatives that support Zigbee, Thread, or Matter provides more robust long-term options. The outdoor products require careful Wi-Fi planning before purchase, while indoor strips and bulbs handle typical residential installations reliably. Set realistic expectations about automation capabilities. These products excel at scheduled lighting and manual control, but struggle with responsive, sensor-driven automations that demand low latency and tight integration with other smart home protocols.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Smart Home Setup Podcast. New episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so there's always something fresh to dig into. If you found this helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a 5-star rating and write a quick review. It sounds like a small thing, but it genuinely makes a difference. It's how other people who are trying to navigate this stuff actually find the show. And go ahead and hit subscribe or follow so you get notified the second a new episode goes live. I'll see you in the next one.